The Death, Dying, Diagnosis and Doulas podcast has more to share. Our daily advice will help you to access information through conversations and feel empowered. Follow Doula Connections on Facebook and Instagram.
Hi, we've got a great guest today, Libby Moloney from Natural Grace Holistic Funerals based in Victoria. And welcome, Libby.
Thank you, Julie.
So beautiful to see you again. One of my very, very special friends and guests, so it's so good to be able to see you. I've got great conversation today that we're going to have about the beautiful, beautiful work that Libby and her team do with babies and children and the families, and I just know that everybody's going to love this conversation. So, Libby, first up, could you explain what a holistic funeral director is?
Yeah, so holistic funeral care is based in that really important word holistic. So we're looking at how a person is in their whole self. So that can be their you'll have to edit that bit out.
Oh dear, right.
So holistic.
Do you want me to start again?
I don't know. What's she going to do about it?
I don't know. Okay. All right.
No, she can cut it out. I'll pick it up from there. That's all right.
All right. So let's go.
Yeah, that's all right. So it's a really important question, Julie, because holistic approach to anything is about the whole person in their whole context on their whole journey. So when you think about being cared for medically holistically, you don't need to just work out why your elbow's sore. You need to know, did that person play tennis? You know, what else do they do? Have they had an injury in the past? Is there something that has caused that unknown injury to be relevant now? So we look at holistic care and funerals in the same way. It's about saying, who is this family? Who's the person that died? What were the principles of their life? What were the things that made them laugh? What were the things that made them cry? Who are their people? You know, families are big and blended and complex and interesting now. So who they belong with and to needs to be really deeply considered. Where do they live? What did they love? What job did they do? Were they, you know, and when we're talking about children and babies, what would have been their story?
Yeah.
So to care for someone holistically is to consider them in their whole context, not to make them fit into a predetermined template of care or ceremony type or venue that is convenient.
Yeah.
It's a much more deeper, broader and complex approach to care than just saying, you know, put you in a box and take you to church or the hall or whatever.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's such a gorgeous explanation. I love that. Now I know that you're really well known in your area for the absolutely beautiful work that you do with babies and children. So, Libby, how did that start? Like, how did you find yourself working a lot with families of babies and children that had died?
I think it came from a couple of places. One is funeral care is notoriously, sorry, but daggy. It's really daggy. There's a lot of the architecture or the aesthetics of funeral care is very, you know, salmon pink velvet curtains and dark and depressing. And there's still a lot of taste and aesthetics around funeral care that doesn't meet what young people need. So if you're a childbearing age, you're young, you know, and young parents are groovy and they like colour and they're conscious of the environment and they want natural things for their babies. And what we saw in the marketplace was that infant care was being sort of shoehorned, quite frankly, into an adult model. And traditionally, funeral directors often don't even charge for babies to be cared for, and it's a lovely gesture. But what it means is the infant care needs to slot into the adult model, because if you're not charging for something, if you're not investing in a particular approach, then you can accommodate it, but it needs to fit in. And we saw that none of that was working for young people, that they wanted their babies to be in beautiful wicker baskets, that they wanted bamboo wraps for them, that they wanted to go into nature, into the park or into their family home to hold funerals, that they were looking for a funeral company that would provide them with much more authentic choice.
Yeah.
So we felt that we were really well placed to do that. Our approach in general is, well, absolutely, natural grace is steeped in absolute foundations, unquestionable foundations of environmental responsibility. So that was already in place. So our existing model really already met that. We've got really groovy architecture, and we found that our taste and our approach and our style was already a really natural fit with young parents.
Yeah.
I also, Julie, am a baby whisperer. I adore newborn babies, and it turns out that I seem to be able to have a really beautiful connection with the baby even when they've died.
Yeah.
And as an older mother, being able to model to young mums, especially first-time mums, that they can still mother even if their baby has died, makes me cry.
Me too. It's such
really
a beautiful thing. Yeah.
It's just a lovely thing to be able to do. So what we do is we hold vigils for babies, and the mums and dads and mums and dads and every combination of parent comes to the sanctuary and to be with their baby. And sometimes they come just the parents, and sometimes they come with other children if there's other children in the family, and grandparents and best mates and all sorts of people, but often just just the parents. And they will hold space with their baby. And for some people, that's giving the baby a bath and getting them in a special outfit. Some people, it's just having a go at that swaddly thing, where you wrap them all in, just having a go at that. For some, it's just changing a nappy and having a go at that. And for some, it's gifting the baby things that they would otherwise have been gifted if they were being welcomed into the family as a living baby. Sometimes parents just really take a lot of time just to tuck their baby into we use little wicker baskets as our coffins for babies, and they'll tuck them in and they'll put all sorts of stuff in there with them and flowers and little gifts. But I think possibly the most rewarding, special, amazing time was in our vigil room. We usually take it out, but this day I somehow, for whatever reason, had left a TV in the room, which we often use for showing photos and things. And I came back into the room, and this dad, who was a big blokey bloke, and he had his newborn but not alive baby lying on his chest, like you do with babies, how they do that when they go sleep on your thing. And Dad had put the footy on the telly. Yeah. And he and his boy were watching the footy.
Wow. That's just so beautiful.
My. And Mum was just there. She was fussing with the bits and pieces that she wanted, and the dad and the little boy were watching the footy.
Because it's also creating memories like that, I think back to, again, because I'm an old girl, but years ago, people were told, oh, well, it's all right, just forget about that and go and have another one. And I can't think of saying anything worse to somebody than that. What's your opinion on that?
Oh, look, the sort of the evidence is overwhelmingly shown that was a bad decision. It was, all these things would come from good intention, and that somehow you were protecting the mother by denying her, that access, and it's been overwhelmingly proven to have been a very bad idea.
Yep.
And hospitals are now really very, very, very good at the care they provide in the bereavement space. And many families come to us, Julie, and they don't need us to provide any more care because they've had such good care from
That's
the midwife
fabulous.
in the hospitals. So the improvements in that is as bad as that was, we've kind of gone, the other way of
full circle,
of totally making sure that's been attended to. And the invention of the cuddle cot has been a big part of that. So
what's that, Libby? Explain that.
Yeah, so that's a cooling system. It's a little tiny mat that cold water is pumped through, and that mat lies across the baby's body, and then the baby gets all wrapped up, and it keeps the baby's body cool. Because as we know, when someone dies, we need to keep their body cold. It keeps the baby's body cold and still allows the parents to keep the baby with them in the hospital room or take the baby home. And still protect the baby's body, but also allow mum and dad parents to hold and cuddle and be connected. So it's been a wonderful invention for making maintaining the bonds of parents with their baby until they're ready to separate that. And that can be a couple of hours for some families, and it can be up to a couple of days for some families before they're ready to separate from their baby. Not that anyone's ever ready, but there is an instinct behaviour that says, I can tell that my baby needs to rest now. It needs to go back to nature. The body needs to go back to nature. And somewhere, usually in about 3 days, parents will go, it's okay, it's time now. So the cuddle cot has allowed that to be a safe practice where the baby's body stays cool. For some people that only happens in hospital. Yeah, it's been really good progress.
So all the hospitals have them now, Libby, would you say? Like all? That's great.
Yep. And if anybody listening to this podcast and they know their hospital does not have it, then there are excellent charities that allow for it, and the best place to start is the Bears of Hope website, and they've got sponsored units ready to go at all times to place in hospitals. So they're on it. So that's been a big thing. And then for children, the same thing can happen. There's a next size up mat that can be used to keep children's bodies cool, and generally for children they can be cared for in the family home if the child dies at home, but also if you look at our beautiful hospices that we've got around Australia. So at the moment there's Very Special Kids in Melbourne, there's Bear Cottage in Sydney, there's Hummingbird House in Queensland, in Brisbane, and there's Hannah's House, I believe it's called, in Perth, where there's beautiful hospice accommodation for after death care for children as well.
Right.
So,
and if those families wanted to take their child home from a hospice or a hospital, they can do that?
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely, they can. It's safe. It's legal. It needs to be supported and planned for, and you need a good person to help you do that. And that's where the Willow Tree Foundation is the sort of not-for-profit organisation that we've founded alongside some other colleagues to really